Hey, everybody. Just getting everything set up.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Doing great. Nothing much. How you doing?
Um, Active at the moment. I'm trying to set some things up. How are you?
Doing well.
Doing well.
Yeah, not much. You got any hot takes coming in about McCarthy?
No, I don't think so. I think in most situations, there seems to be like a sane consensus for the most part. Seems relatively straightforward.
Yeah, I think a couple people are saying that Dems were insane.
Yeah, actually,
Did you see?
I was sparring with Sitch from
Yeah.
Adam and Sitch on the old Twitter, the old X. Yeah, they took a contrary position. I haven't been able to listen to their video. They have like a 22-minute video, but somebody recapped it to me, and so I was just like, "Sitch, what the hell, man?" And so then Pisco jumped in, and it's been an ongoing back and forth. Testing.
Did you see Brianna Joy Gray basically saying, "See, force the vote would have worked.
Yeah,
Dems should
saw
have done
that.
this ages ago."
Saw that too.
That is very funny.
That's one word for it. That's one word for it.
It's kind of insane how, like, I feel like Bernie Sanders is such a good politician so often, but he surrounds himself with just like the biggest amount of morons I've ever seen in my life. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, it seems relatively straightforward. I mean, obviously, it's going to be the topic for today. The other guy says, "Who are we talking tonight?" Well, it depends on who shows up. We've got Stacks here. We're supposed to also have Fresh Faces, New Ideas, and Cypher from Crowdsource Politics, who's going to be debating
What's his
Actual
name?
Justice Warrior.
That's
In
right.
like a month or two at the Modern Day Debate thing. So good for him. Congratulations.
Falsers also said he was coming.
And Falsers, yes, but he said that he was having internet issues.
I just see that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Just before 9 p.m. Oh, okay. So it looks like it's small internet problems, and it'll probably jump in soon. We'll see. Sick. Yeah, everything going well in your life?
Yeah, for the most part. Basically took a second job. So my daytime or my free time during the week is pretty limited.
Is it the job we were talking about?
Yeah. But I'm doing it in addition to, I decided to do it in addition to my actual day job. And so then there's a second job and then my YouTube channel. So I haven't been to I know, dude, I haven't been to the gym in like 4 weeks. I see my girlfriend basically on the weekends. It's funny. I had enough time yesterday to go to play pub trivia with some friends, which is like a last second. Yeah, I'll show up for it. And I have to reiterate this to them every time. Gift from the God says, what type of camera do I use? A Sony ZV-1, which incidentally, I think is the same camera you use, right?
No, that is not the camera that is being used right now. The Sony ZV-1, I kind of gave up. I use it for my YouTube videos because it connects to my laptop, but it just fails to connect to this computer. So yeah. Yeah, still it took like a month and a half of testing, and then I tested on I think it might be a problem with my computer and not the camera.
Or the user, the operator.
True.
Would be a good way. Yeah.
I mean, after like, 12 hours of calling Sony reps, I would hope it's not user error, because then they would just say, oh, here's the issue. But, that's still a possibility.
Yeah, so we're waiting on some more people to show up. The topic for today is obviously not that
McCarthy.
Yeah, I put the 2020, or I put the second Republican debate, wrong one. The topic is obviously the situation in Congress. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. You feeling better? You were sick for a minute.
I was sick. I thought I got COVID, but I didn't. I don't know what I had, but it was rough for last week mostly. But I feel fine now. Just like it was honestly like a week and a half of just like, yeah, it was miserable. But I'm good now.
But you didn't have COVID, right? You tested negative?
I tested negative, yeah. So, yeah. So everything's fine. But yeah, it was pretty miserable. Just took like a few days off work and chilled, played a bunch of Baldur's Gate with me and my girlfriend.
Baldur's Gate 3?
Yeah, I did not think, I was like, I've never played a game like this before, but I play D&D, so I'll try this out. And I was like, this just seems like a game I would not like. Turns out I love organizing inventories. That shit is...
Listen, I don't king shame around here.
It's so
you like what you like, man.
It is so fun to me. I have spent so much of my time just organizing inventories. Like, I think this is not the game for me. Like, I need to pick like something even more obnoxiously. I don't know. I want to watch like some of those, like, have you ever seen the those Excel like
you should basically just play with Steven Plays. I mean, my understanding is like these like organizing games like Factorio and all of that. I feel like that'd be right up your alley.
Yeah, maybe Factorio.
Yeah. Looks awful. I mean, here's the thing. I tried to play Baldur's Gate 3 too. I mean, as well. But I just don't have the attention span for gaming these days. I definitely don't have the time. So I made it like 2 hours in and I was just like, I checked out. I tried to play the new Star Wars Jedi game, but it's not optimized for PC. Yeah, I love Jedi Fallen Order, but Jedi Survivor is still, to this day, and it's like 6 or 8 months after release, it's still not optimized for PC. I've got a pretty badass PC. I've got RTX 3070, and it's still like I'm on the second or third planet, and it's just like constantly glitching. It's like 1 frame per minute. So just like, nah.
Not worth it.
So
I think Falser's out.
Yeah. So we're just
estimated time of repair is an hour from now.
That's fine.
Yeah. Rip Falsers.
We've got
Fresh Face should be coming in, and I think Cypher's still good.
There he is.
Cypher! How's it going, man?
He should definitely be on the bottom there with that panoramic view.
I know, that looks great.
He's like a Bond villain at the moment. A Studley Bond villain. He probably can't hear a word that we're saying because he usually has tech issues every time.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
You're really loud. Is it loud for everyone else?
I turned it. Hold on. Is that better?
It's probably
much better.
Me.
I don't know if that's... I just heard... I don't know. I can't adjust volume, though. Because I'm...
adjust your face?
Nice, dude. Nice. Fucking got me. Holy shit. How will I recover?
That's a good question.
We're not gonna wind down and.
Hey, it's okay. So sidebar. This is blocking out Cypher in its entirety, but so this gentleman is New York man 10G, who is he's a guy on Destiny's Reddit. He and I initially we interacted when we had a disagreement over Sam Harris. And then we had a conversation. Dude's pretty chill. He's going to start streaming himself eventually. So good for you, man. Good to hear from you.
Very cool.
Can't stick around long. Just wondering because your setup is so professional. Taking notes from my setup. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. I have the Sony ZV-1, and this is a Shure microphone. Got two Elgato lights. I've got two other kinds of lights here. I've got a fan blowing on me at all times. Otherwise, I would melt.
Same.
Yes.
Oh, I don't do that. But I relish in the heat, legitimately.
Yeah, you're always wearing that damn hoodie.
It's so rare to see me in like a short sleeve shirt. I just I always want heat.
Yeah.
I grew up in California and I don't live there anymore, but
I can get rid of this comment now because it's just blocking Cypher the whole time. That's hilarious. How can we FUF? What does that mean?
Are you guys hearing my fan at all?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
I just thought you were making noises. How can we find each of your YouTube channels? Oh, I still have them. I do believe. No, I don't. I deleted them all. Wait a minute. Staxiums on YouTube. Guys, send me your YouTube, your youtube.com/@ in the private chat so I can throw them on here.
Let me navigate there.
I have Staxiums memorized because I've typed this in 40,000 times in the past.
Or I actually know how to fucking work my SEO where it's Staxiums everywhere. Unlike you underscore the pondering.
I tried. Listen, buddy. So again, I did the ruminate thing because I couldn't get the correct spelling of ruminate. Then, copy.
Oh, that didn't work.
No,
my @name doesn't work for some reason. So here, use this one.
Huh?
I don't know. It works when I get tagged, but.
Are you not? Oh, is it not just /Staxiums? It's @Staxiums.
I thought it's right. It's /@ Staxiums.
Oh no, yeah, you did it right. Yeah,
I know I did it right. I never make mistakes.
True. Is that how it works for everyone?
No.
Really?
No, probably.
No, it is.
I don't know.
It is. That is how it works for everyone.
Mine doesn't work.
It doesn't work? I bet it does.
I'll find it.
Watch this.
I don't know if I
work for me, baby. Literally, it worked.
Well, when I clicked on it, it went.
Well, it's because you clicked on it
to
wrong.
the homepage.
All right. This is getting okay. So Cypher is youtube.com/@ crowdsource politics.
I confirmed that that's the right one.
Yeah. All right. So we're waiting on Fresh. We'll give him just a few more minutes. He said he might be late because he's eating. What a loser. Eating organic food for sustenance.
True.
Sustenance. All right. So yeah, obviously the topic of the day is going to be the MAGA Civil War, which is multifaceted.
Yeah, they're hemorrhaging right now, self-immolating, I might say.
Yeah, one can only hope.
Hold on 1 second.
He said, I found it just by typing the name in the search bar. That is a good way to do it. What do I think the next move for the House is? Oh, man. I made a mistake. Can I do this gently? Oh, yeah.
It's weird. Restream used to push the video up above the comments.
That's right, because you'd use Restream for your weekly thingy, right?
Oh, yes, but that's not how I get my little words to come up.
Gotcha. I love this where it's just your eyes peeking over. I don't know why it cracks me up. Let's see. So what do you think the next move for the House is? Do you expect the Speaker vote-a-rama to last past the continuing resolution? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. They made 15. Well, no, they made it 3 days, 15 votes for McCarthy. I suppose it's possible, but we
I
have
think
about
the
42 days.
problem with any sort of like estimates.
Tell me what the problem is.
Yeah, any sort of like expectations or estimates or guesses as to what will happen. Every guess depends on the parties being rational actors. And I think what we found is today, or at least, when did McCarthy get
just
out?
today,
Yesterday?
Huh? We
Was
just
it 2 days ago?
today.
I don't remember where it was.
Guys, the GOP is not a rational party. We just found that out today. All right.
Facts. When was this actual? Was it 2 days ago?
No, it was yesterday.
Yesterday.
Was
Okay. Yeah, like it's just like Gates. It's so hard to predict because you would assume that if a person is, if they're part of the majority party and they have a specific, like, it just doesn't make any sense from their perspective to purposefully detonate their own party. So it's really hard to say what they'll do in the future. Like it's kind of like imagining just like what a psychotic person is going to do. It's like, I can't see into their mind. I'm sorry. Like it's too hard to understand what the hell's going on in their brains.
Don Rose says, can you imagine Trump as speaker sitting behind Biden as he's speaking to Congress?
Oh yeah.
We will address that in time.
You see? Okay. Well, I don't know what order you want to do things in, but did you see that Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yes, I did. So we're going to cover that too. So we're going to wait 60 more seconds for fresh. And then yeah. He heard the threat.
Perfect
coming in.
Timing.
Who heard a threat? Oh, are you threatening me?
Yeah. We talked about how selfish you are for eating because you like need food and all that nonsense.
Oh, well, luckily for you, you get both. I'm both still eating and going to be on this.
Oh, well, joke's on you because that's something that titillates Stacks. He loves watching people eat.
Oh, thanks.
You're not going to see him blink at all.
Appreciate it.
DCHII just spoiled it, but that is correct. I don't think you can be speaker under federal indictment. Otherwise, they should nominate Hunter. Yes, that is the spoiler. We don't have to worry about Donald Trump becoming speaker, even though there's an argument to be made that would be great.
It's crazy that there's a rule that the speaker doesn't have to be a member of the House, but there is a rule about the speaker having to be under federal indictment.
So what's funny is it's not even a rule. It's just the vagueness of the Constitution. The Constitution, all articles.
No, for sure, yeah.
Article 1, Section 2, or Section 3 of the Constitution says that just the Congress gets to choose the speaker. That's it. Because again, you have to remember, for those watching, so much of what the founding fathers, who were profoundly flawed men, by the way, so it's not like their judgment was impeccable, but so much of this they expected to be just understood. Like, surely no idiot along the way would just pull some random dipshit off the... Yeah, exactly. And then, lo and behold... So
it really does feel like Airbud rules with Marjorie Taylor Greene being like, I can nominate Donald Trump. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing here?
They did that before. What do you mean
they did that before? Did they
during the ones with McCarthy?
During the first round, they nominated him like 2 or 3 times.
Oh, I don't remember that. I stopped following after. Well, I mean, I don't know. It was all kind of a joke.
So I know in the beginning they started with like Jim Jeffries, and I know like at the end they were going with like Byron Donalds.
Jim Jordan.
I was about to say like,
and then they did Byron Donalds, and I know somewhere in the middle was Trump.
Actual people who might be considered for Speaker of the House.
Yeah, so let's move back for a second. Let's do this in somewhat a chronological order. So here's the situation, folks. Yesterday on October 3rd, the then Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, faced a motion to vacate, which is essentially the U.S. version of a vote of no confidence. It's a way to trigger a vote which gets the occupant of that particular office, the Speaker, kicked out. So Matt Gaetz had threatened repeatedly Kevin McCarthy that if he didn't, stick to certain commitments he apparently made to the Trump-aligned MAGA Freedom Caucus, that Matt Gaetz would, introduce a motion to vacate. You only need one person to do it. Then it has to be voted on. It has to pass with a majority. That's exactly what happened. So Matt Gaetz triggered the vote. They took the vote on Tuesday, October 3rd, and 8 Republicans, including Gaetz, and plus every House Democrat voted to kick McCarthy out of the speakership. So right now, the House is in recess for at least a week. They have no formal replacement for Kevin McCarthy at this time. Steve Scalise, McCarthy's number 2, and Jim Jordan, who we'll talk about him in a minute. I'm sure you guys have plenty to say, but their names are being thrown out.
And notably, McCarthy said he will not run again.
Yes, correct. What'd you say, Fresh?
Tom Everett, I think, is being considered because he was the name that they floated prior to actually doing this.
I just don't think he has said that
Jordan,
he's going to.
Yeah, Jordan and Scalise have said that they like to run. Run? I don't know if run is the correct term.
To throw their hat in the ring.
Sure.
So that's it. So that's the recap of where we are. So let's go to. I've been talking to Stacks for a minute, so I want to hear from. Let's do Cypher first. So Cypher, what other critical details would you like to throw in there in terms of just the recap? Because I gave the 30,000-foot version. Yeah,
I think it's important for everybody to understand that McCarthy kind of did this to himself. He put himself in between a rock and a hard place when he accepted the rules of only one member could advocate for the vacating of the speakership. But he did, I think, play the hand as best as he could.
I disagree with that.
Let Cypher make his case, and then
go ahead.
Yeah. So the reason I say that is because he lied to everybody. He's a fucking liar. Okay, he wanted power so badly that he was willing to lie, cheat, and steal, and tolerate those who do.
Cypher, before you go on, can you clarify what the lies were? Because some people may not realize that because he's a Republican, obviously by definition he's a liar. But like, what were the key lies in particular?
Yeah, so he promised the Freedom Caucus certain things. Some of those things weren't written down on paper, so they're neither here nor there, and nobody has any proof that they were done. But one of those things was bringing to the floor a vote for term limits, promising not to give money to Ukraine to a little bit of an extent, or at least curbing it back. No deals with Democrats, essentially, was another one. But with power sharing agreement that they have set up because of Senate and the Senate being controlled by Democrats and the White House being controlled by a Democrat, there's really not much he could do. And when he went and negotiated with Biden for the debt ceiling lays, he did it in a way that under normal circumstances, I think Republicans would have been okay with, but not the Freedom Caucus. And that's where the rub comes in, because if the Freedom Caucus wasn't full of dumb fucks, if it wasn't free dumb caucus, as we all like to say on the liberal left, they would have been able to take that deal and run with it, and also get additional concessions because Biden already did a concession, right? So yeah, it's just one thing after another with the Freedom Caucus and the far right Republican base. They basically don't want anything, except two things, and that's a border wall and to make liberals mad. So that's where we're at.
So before we turn it over to Stacks, you were saying that that you believe that McCarthy played the hand he was dealt in the best possible way. Could you further elaborate that?
Yeah, I just mean with as far as like getting a debt deal in, and also doing some sort of funding for the government. The debt deal was pretty much from a Republican standpoint, from like a traditional fiscally conservative, even culturally conservative Republican standpoint, the debt deal that he negotiated with Biden was decent. You're not going to get everything you want, but that's what happens when you only have 1/3 of power that you would normally have. And so that was one thing. And the other thing is that he pretty much went down the line exactly what I said he was going to do when it comes to getting the funding of the government. So he tried to give the Freedom Caucus the impeachment inquiry. They got an impeachment. What are they calling it now? An impeachment.
It was committee. Like an investigation.
No, it is. It's an impeachment inquiry. You had it correct.
Well, it didn't get voted for, so they're calling it something else. Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, it's whatever. It's Boulder Dash. That's
Boulder
a word
Dash.
you don't hear
Okay. No, absolutely not.
But so he did that, and he was hoping that like, hey, let's focus on Biden and his corruption, and let's do a continuing resolution. And they're like, no. And he's like, all right, well, I have this other plan that's kind of working. And they're like, no. What about this? No. Well, then fuck it. There's nothing else I can do. Continuing resolution it is. And,
Well,
he
yeah,
gave them what they kind of wanted, but it just wasn't everything. So they're just like, no.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to let...
It's more than that. Like, that's the crazy thing. Like, to be clear, Matt Gaetz blew this up to make that. Like, he had to have blown this up to make this move. Because what happened before he went to the Democrats is they put all their frontline guys on a vote that was like a 30% cut on like every federal service. It would just like eviscerate whatever social safety nets we had. And then fucking Gaetz blew that shit up. And it was like, it had like no shot of passing at all.
So Fresh, real quick, before you get into the weeds on that, because I do think there's plenty of things that we need to double click on, as Vivek Ramaswamy, who is Staxium's favorite Republican, by the way, would what he would say. I do want to turn it over to Stax because you disagree. You said that you think that McCarthy did not handle this well.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of the facts that you gave. Definitely the Freedom Caucus has been petulant little children when it comes to just demanding, like, I don't know, just like cutting every federal program possible. Like they wanted to strip everything. They wanted to shut the government down. And McCarthy said yes initially, and then he's like, okay, well, obviously we can't do that, so then did it anyway. But he had the opportunity to get some of the Democrats' votes near the end, like right after Gaetz motion to vote of no confidence. I forget what it is. Motion to vacate.
Motion to vacate.
Yeah, motion to vacate. And then he went on. I think he approached no Democrats about like possibly doing some sort of favors to try to get him to keep him in power, to try to get any of these votes over. And then I think he went on. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was MSNBC. Face the Nation. Yeah. Basically just saying I offer nothing to any Democrats who want my vote.
Yeah,
it was a tweak. Wait, hang on. It was the tweak. I just want to do a quick fact check there. He went on Face the Nation to throw Democrats under the bus about the government shutdown. He did say in a later conversation in front of the press, like 2 or 3 times, that he wasn't going to make a deal with Democrats. But what he said in front of the Face the Nation was just as bad in its own way, because he said that the only reason we had a near government shutdown was because of the Democrats. And Margaret Brennan, the moderator of Face the Nation, had to say, no. More Democrats voted for that continuing resolution than Republican. They saved your bacon. So, but that did play a role, by the way, in what happened.
Oh, yeah, that's what threw all the moderates.
And it's also, you have to recognize who's calling for the government shutdown, which is the Freedom Caucus. It's the I don't know how many, I don't know the official numbers, but it's something like half dozen or so Republicans.
20. I think it's like 20 of them.
Oh, yeah, it was the Freedom Caucus is in the dozens, but the people who voted against McCarthy was 8.
Yeah.
So Cypher, just giving it again, throwing it back to you real quick, and also buying Fresh more time so he can sustain himself with nourishment. I can rant. You can do both. Okay. Well, then, damn it, put your plate in front of us so we can say. I'm just kidding. So then, what do you contest anything that Stax just said?
Yeah, the only thing that I would quibble on that just a little bit is that if he had gone and made a deal with Democrats, McCarthy, say what you want about him, but he's still a Republican, right?
No, for sure.
And so he cares about his legacy from a Republican standpoint. He is he is somewhat of an ideologue.
It's just an interesting legacy to be the only person to ever be outed from the speaker.
But that's better than being a tarnished or rhino and have all your Republican friends and conservative colleagues to hate you for the rest of your entire life.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
That's why I say he played the hand as best as he could, because there really wasn't another option for him.
I disagree, but I'm going to throw it to Fresh. I want to throw it to Fresh.
I also disagree, because the thing we have to understand is McCarthy's lust for power is also balanced by the fact that he's a fundamentally stupid person. So this goes back 8 years ago. 8 years ago, when they were running Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, Kevin McCarthy went on television and said, hey, you know how Hillary Clinton was doing in the polls and then we Benghazi'd her? Well, that's why we Benghazi'd her. And that's why Paul Ryan became speaker instead. Because they're like, we cannot put this fucking idiot as speaker. So it starts from that being that fundamental idiot. So yes, he's always wanted to be speaker. However, he had to understand, at least at some point, that giving away so much to these people would lose his power. So even if it tarnished his legacy a little bit, Kevin McCarthy essentially had made, during his speakership, made one correct move, and that was to keep the government open by going to the Democrats. The first time he fucked this up is when he was trying to be speaker, when he could have gone to them and said, look, you help me get the speakership, and I will let these lunatics just rant and rave on Fox News for all this shit. Like, we won't do the impeachment, they won't shut things down. We'll do like basic governance shit. We'll pass whatever bills we need to keep the government open, and then like we'll go on our merry way based type shit. Like your left flank isn't happy, our right flank isn't happy. The downside of this, the Democrats would be maybe the frontline guys survive because they're just doing fundamental, we don't have a lot of power, and it's passing regular governance and whatever nonsense bills they pass, like whatever their flagship bills would be, because that's what you do. It's all flagship stuff for then when you actually have power, like here's what we're going to do. So when he didn't do that, he basically caved into the craziest people. Now, the other thing is they don't have any flagship bills. Like they have no fundamental ability to govern. And this is so obvious now. Like people are like, oh, they're doing such a great job. They've done all this stuff. It's like, maybe somebody who's paid more attention to this can tell me. Can anyone tell me an actual bill that they have passed with a Republican policy? Like there is.
You mean passed the House or made it pass the Senate?
Obviously, it's not going to pass the Senate. But like when the Democrats had the power from 2018, 2020, they passed a lot of bills.
Sure.
And Mitch McConnell's like, fuck you, I'm the graveyard. Like, nothing is. But like they had things they can point to. Like fundamentally, it's Hunter Biden's penis and the gas stove bill. Like that's it.
Yeah, so the only thing that they passed was the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which was the result of the debt ceiling negotiation with President Biden, which they basically immediately had to disavow because it didn't include a commitment to all the cuts that the right flank wanted. So yeah, to your point, that was the biggest piece of legislation that I can think of. And he basically, like Trump with the vaccine, McCarthy can't really cling to it as a feather in his cap because a huge chunk of his conference despise it. So was there anything more you wanted to say? And then I was going to jump in and give my opinion on it. Was there anything more?
No, I think fundamentally he ran into a problem because he was his lust for power and being stupid forced him to make the worst choice at a century. Like the funny thing is, and I'm sure we'll get to this later, is the 45 days may not be enough. Like the ultimate act that brought him down may also not be enough to keep the government from not shutting down.
May very well have been in vain. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is for a lot of the reasons that Fresh identified, I also think that McCarthy not only did he not play this well, he was hoisted by his own petard. This was a fate of his own making, because in terms of legacy, I certainly see where you're coming from, Cypher, in that depending on what prism of analysis you can use, you could see that in a certain way, from a certain vantage point, it was in McCarthy's interest in terms of his legacy, his best interest, to basically just be a flash in the pan. But I think you could also make the argument using the same thing that actually a better legacy would have been because he was relatively young, to be a tenured, accomplished Speaker of the House in split government at a time when not only did you have a number of domestic and global issues, so like situations with inflation, climate change, rising gas prices, things like that, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but also given that, as he admitted at the very end, that a huge segment of the Republican base has absolutely no interest in governing. When I say his base, I mean the base of his conference, not his voting base. I think you could easily make the argument that would have been better in terms of his legacy, especially when odds are, as dangerous as Trump and MAGA are, in 100 years, every Republican who existed at this time will be reviled, such as those in the Confederacy were. The sands of time are not on the Republican Party's side. In the short term, they're still incredibly dangerous, but they're fucked in the long term, barring some sort of like major cultural.
Unless they win and they successfully dismantle everything.
Right. Which I do think is relatively unlikely. I don't want to diminish the threat that they pose, but what I mean is they'll always be outnumbered in terms of values, in terms of policy. They'll always be unpopular. Okay?
Yeah, it's crazy that I kind of have to give the Republican Party just a little bit of credit. I think that outside of kind of Gates MTG Boebert faction, like those kind of staunch extremists. I do think the Republican Party doesn't want the entire system to burn down and to just shut down the government permanently.
No, because also because I wasn't finished.
Okay,
Stacks. But to your point, no, they don't, because if only for the fact that they know, historically speaking, they're going to get blamed for it. It happened under Obama. It happened under Clinton. That's why I find it so funny when Newt Gingrich is running his mouth on Fox News. I'm like, dude, you were basically the progenitor of this entire situation. But that's a separate thing. But yeah, McCarthy gave away, as Stacks was saying earlier, the reason I think that McCarthy didn't play this well, in addition to the legacy thing, I think being interpreted in a different way, is he set himself up for failure. He wanted the speakership so bad, he effectively neutralized it. He gave all the power away for the gavel. Like, so weak. He could have, and there were reports that Democrats did go to McCarthy because they knew he was the most likely candidate to get the speakership from the Republican Party, and they offered him a deal, and he gave them the finger. And so he basically did it again here. I have no sympathy for him. He set himself up for abject failure.
Absolutely.
He did a ridiculous and unnecessary debt ceiling escalation, which nearly caused global economic catastrophe. He did it again with a shutdown. He reneged on his deal. He looked Biden dead in the face. And part of the debt ceiling negotiation was to make these spending commitments for the next fiscal year. He lied about that because he went back and tried to get all those cuts, as you pointed out, those ridiculous 30% cuts down the middle or right down the line. And then he lied on the impeachment inquiry because he said, we would not do an impeachment inquiry without the full vote. Then 12 days later, he launched the impeachment inquiry anyway to try to throw the Freedom Caucus a bone because he knew he wasn't going to be able to get the votes to back it up in the first place. And then after all that, for him to try to throw Democrats under the bus the way he did after they saved his bacon just this past weekend, no, he set himself up for failure. And then apparently he offered them nothing to try to save him. I don't know if he thought that stance would like inspire Republicans to go, damn, he could have gone to the opposition and saved his speakership, but he chose not to. So I guess we'll back him anyway. Of course, the GOP cares nothing for principles.
Yeah, but I don't even understand. Like, I don't even get from his own perspective why McCarthy would do that, because all he needs is what, like 3 or 4 Republicans to still despise him. Like, I don't even get it from his perspective. Like,
well, no, I think that had he made a deal with the Democrats, he would have almost certainly. The odds
lost a. Okay,
no,
gotcha.
he still would. No, he would have won. He would have kept his speakership because he would have had all the Democrats in unanimity, and he would have only needed, the situation would have flipped. He would have only needed about 10 Republicans to not want to shit can him, which that could have easily been done. So yeah.
How much does his district play into this?
I don't think it matters.
Who is he?
So,
he's California.
He is California, but here's what's interesting.
He's in the red, right?
I asked that. I thought that myself, but he's even suggested that he may resign as a result from this because he's been asked,
really?
Are you still gonna serve? And he says basically, I'm kicking it around. I'm still thinking of it. He won't even commit to that. And to be fair, who could blame him?
I mean, this is what happened with Ryan and Bonner, right?
Boehner,
yeah, Boehner.
Yeah, I mean, but who wants the ignominy of that, where you were the top dog, at least in name only, for 9 months, and now you're just back among the rank and file. He's rich, I mean, like, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he just likes peace. I want no part of it, but who knows? So does anybody, Fresh, you were gonna say something?
I mean, yeah, like it's weird, like when you think about like somebody being on top and then coming back. Like Romney came back. Like he's a senator now. He was he's just like an average dude. Like he actually wanted to care about government. And I know I think you guys talked about this before I showed up, but like the idea of like having somebody who's not in the House as speaker is like such a fundamentally non-serious idea. Like unless it's like somebody who's like a policy, like a legitimate policy nerd who understands things, you like that person's not gonna know what the fuck they're doing. Like just on a fundamental, like if any of the 4 of us ended up in as the speakership like next week or something, like how many regular procedures and scheduling of votes or like just regular rules of order would we just be able to just like fuck up, that they'd be like, oh, you failed to do part A15C, like just like that's part of like it's it's so funny that this party wants to potentially put somebody who's not in the House as the speaker. Because they're so fundamentally incapable of governing on just a basic level. In reality, they should just lose the majority. Just for being so fucking terrible at their jobs.
It would make the liberals so mad. You're discounting how mad
it really does feel like fully spite-filled.
No, 100%. Yeah, I want you to read while you're talking about this. I want you to read what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say.
I know it's great. I've seen it. Yeah.
I want to go back to this a little bit too. The Gates thing is objectively also funny because he came out over the weekend saying, "Yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this," and then they came back on Tuesday and he had a big speech and he didn't do it. So everyone was fucking mocking him online, and they said, "You know what? I'm going to do it." We bullied him into doing it.
Yeah, it's almost like you could probably make the case that Gates basically did what happened with Trump. Many people say, close to Trump, that the thing that pushed him into making a serious effort for the candidacy in 2015 was Obama mocking him, right? So you could easily see that with Gates, but also Gates has no interest in governing either, because rumors are, number one, I think he does he's like a Newsmax guest host and runs a podcast. So he's basically doing what Ted Cruz is doing, just using his congressional career to push his side hustle. But he's also apparently going to run for the governorship of Florida in 2024, I think is what. Yeah. Wait. No, 2026 is what it would be, I guess, because DeSantis serves a 4-year term and it'd be 2026, which, by the way, answers the question, what could possibly be worse for Florida than DeSantis and the hurricanes? You would have Matt Gates as your governor. That would answer.
Well, actually, no. So there's one other thing too. Matt Gaetz is also very mad at McCarthy because he didn't shut down the FBI investigation into him.
Sure.
But I actually think Matt Gaetz might be better than DeSantis. Because
hot take. All right.
I mean,
it's not in the way that Republicans would want, because DeSantis is just flagrantly breaking the law whenever he can, and I don't think Matt Gaetz cares enough about trans people or wokeness to take over colleges and shit.
I don't. That's a bold claim. I don't know. Gates feels like a wild card. I really can't predict what that guy's up to.
Gates would have beauty pageants happening within colleges that he himself would.
I think you're being generous to assume. I think you're being generous assuming that they're college age. Now, I do want to point out here. I do want to point out here real quick, because we discussed it a bit, but I also want to address this. So again, this idea about appointing Donald Trump or getting him elected to the speakership, in theory, it could be done if not for this rule. So what's funny is the 118th Congress, led by Republicans, passed a rule, Rule 26, Section A. A member of the Republican leadership shall step aside if indicted for a felony for which a sentence of 2 or more years imprisonment may be imposed. So ironically, even if this were a serious effort, Republicans sandbag themselves. Of course, this was before Trump's indictments, but they should have seen it coming.
Yeah. When was this? What was the reason?
This was part of the. I don't know. This was part of the.
It was probably based on what happened with Hastert.
Yeah.
Hastert. Yeah.
That would be my guess based on that. But also, they should do it anyway because Donald Trump's favorite thing to do is do crimes on television. So this would be another one to add to his growing list. And also they should do it again. And as some of the chat have been talking about this, because it may be the funniest thing I think we've ever seen if Joe Biden gives a State of the Union and Donald Trump has to sit behind him. I think that would be the funniest thing that would ever happen.
Yeah, I know. Who's the man? What I'm blanking on his name. Chris Hayes on MSNBC. Yeah. He was on Twitter saying, "No, stop. That would definitely own the libs if you elect Donald Trump to the speakership. No, please don't."
The other thing is, he's gonna try to call a motion to vacate Joe Biden because of wokeness or something.
Right. And that's not what we have to actually worry about. What we actually have to worry about is some dipshit trying to kill Biden and Harris at the same time, so Trump becomes president.
Yeah, the only discomfort, in my opinion, there are two things in a hypothetical in which Trump is the Speaker of the House. Number one, because funding generates, or, not only is it necessary, I think all funding legislation begins in the House, and that would be a way, he has less interest in responsibly governing than any Republican, which says quite a bit. So he would be willing to burn the House down if need be. Number one. Number two, he would be second in line of presidential succession. So now, despite what people say, even at his ripe age of 400, President Biden is clearly in pretty good physical health at the bare minimum. I mean, he constantly works out, he's trim, but you never know. Crush. That is true. My God, yes. Dark Brandon all the way, baby.
That's peak male perfection.
Oh, I got the mug, by the way. I'm going to go get the mug real quick. Have you guys seen the mug?
I bought it. Oh, the one where you pour it in the eyes.
Yeah. I need I would need heat it up, but I got.
No, it's fine. It's okay. All right, fine.
Well, I also need to go to the bathroom, so it's just an excuse.
Don't pee in it.
That's one way to get the eyes.
I'll do what I want.
I'll do what I want.
I'll be right back.
Well, let's answer some questions while Stacks is away. So let's go all the way up. All right, so let's start.
Can we talk about the other things? The only two other things I would want to talk about when he comes back is who could potentially get it, and can we make fun of the force to vote people? I mean, I'm going to do that on different podcasts.
Yeah, we can.
I very much want to make fun of them.
Let's see. All right. So what do you think the next move for the House is? Okay. You weren't here for this question, but do you expect the Speaker, Votorama, to last past the 40 plus days of continuing resolution?
I don't know if the drama will, because they're coming back next week. So by next week, we'll have an idea of who's a serious contender and who isn't. And then it'll probably take about another week for them to get their shit together, assuming they don't go on another vacation, because they've worked maybe 3 weeks since they came back from their August break. So I assume in the next 2 weeks, we'll probably know who the Speaker is. So, no, I don't think it's going to pass, but I do not think they're going to get a budget deal to fund the government, because one of the things they're going to have to negotiate is a new rules package. And I cannot imagine that the MAGA lunatics who just successfully ousted a speaker would be like, oh, yeah, we're going to give up the ability to do that. Because anybody who takes a job would be insane to leave. They're going to have to fight that out. And I don't know what other concessions they're going to give. I think and this is to the shutdown, I think the biggest problem that they've given out on Twitter, and this idea, at least within some of the Freedom Caucus, is that they have the ability to actually pass things. That actually would change. We can pass legislation that will shut down the border or end wokeness in schools or whatever crazy thing they're obsessed with. I don't think that they really on a fundamental level understand how divided government works, and they actually think that they have the ability to make legislation that will have any effect on things passing out their priorities.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We'll start with this question here. Do you all think, or conclude with this question here, and then we'll go back to the two things you wanted to talk about. Do you all think the new speaker will give concessions about Ukraine, and how long can Ukraine wait for another spending bill before they start losing the war? Cypher, you want to take this one?
6 months. But there's ways that we could.
How long can Ukraine wait? 6 months?
Yes.
Gotcha. Is there an intelligence report that you're citing right now, or is that?
It's a rough estimate based on how much ammunition they're going through and how many people are dying on the front lines.
Gotcha. So,
but I'm sure there's other ways we could do it, because aren't we funneling Iranian weapons to them or something?
Yeah, hang on one second. Go ahead, Stacks. What were you gonna say?
Oh, well, to answer the first question, do you think the new speaker will give concessions about Ukraine? I don't think that the Republican Party as a whole is against Ukraine. I think that, I don't know, if I were to guess, a third of them want to cut funding, and none of the Democrats.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if it makes it to the floor. I'd be shocked if it doesn't pass, because
do you agree with those numbers? That's fully vibe based. I have no data to support that, but
I would say
that's about right.
Yeah, I would say
sure.
actually about half.
I want to point out something again about the Ukraine funding, because this is something I've had an argument with leftists too, but it causes. So one, it's we've given maybe 1% of the military budget to Ukraine. Yeah. I don't remember what the exact number that we've given, but it's less than 10% of the military budget, on a yearly basis. But the other thing is, we don't live in a world where the funding from Ukraine would go to like Maui or
Correct.
like build like that's the fundamental thing that these people pretend. It's like the same thing as, oh, we can't help, immigrants because we have veterans on the street, but you don't care about the veterans on the street. It's a fundamental world where like this money that they want to repurpose actually goes to something that helps people. And if we lived in that world, that would be a totally different conversation.
And to hit that argument in two different places, the first is that the vast majority of the funding that we give to Ukraine is just weapons and arms. And like, it's like, well, let's take care of our homeless. It's like, I don't think they're really going to do much with a fighter jet.
Yeah,
but like,
we give them loan guarantees too.
Yeah, so that was exactly my second point. Yeah, it's like we're also benefiting from this because they're going to pay us back for. I don't think it's all loans, but
it's like lend lease.
So the way that this works, the way this typically works, and this is the way it's working for Ukraine, is that we guarantee a loan. They use the loan money. The bank, they get the loan from the private market at a reduced interest rate. Then they go in and buy weapons. And those weapons generally come from, you guessed it, the United States. So it kind of just circles back around. And all it does with the loan guarantees is reduce the amount of costs that they end up having to pay back to whoever it is that they get the loan from, whether it's another government or from the private sector.
Yeah, but to Fresh's point, I think it's really important. I mean, obviously, to people who are, not geeks about this the way that we are, and that they're distracted with, jobs and family and friends and children and hobbies, and fitness and blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to go off and on.
Absolutely be a hobby.
But the fact of the matter is, it is just superficially an attractive rhetorical talking point, which is this idea that, okay, resources and money are finite. We're giving it to a foreign ally when we have problems here on the homeland, which require resources and funding, and what's going there can't be here at the same time. But to Fresh's point, and this is something that Democrats have to be much more disciplined about, and also do it in a rhetorically effective way. You can't spend 70 minutes explaining the policy history, but he's completely right. The same Republicans who are complaining about the lack of domestic spending want to cut domestic spending every single time. They're lying through their teeth. And we've got to find a way to thread that needle where it's like, have you put any, what's your history on social spending? What's your history on social safety nets? What legislation have you proposed? And did you propose any if you were in Congress prior to the Ukrainian war? Where's your establishment here? Where's your social safety net bona fides? And of course, no Republican would pass because they all suck. The objectively inferior party in all ways. Just want to put that out there by miles in every which way. Less talented lovers too. I mean, just in every possible way you can possibly imagine the inferior party. Yeah. What was I even talking about? Sorry, I went on like this. I go down
every time you're like eyes glaze over.
Yeah, I know, and I'm just like, man, I do not like Republican politicians at all.
Yeah, the spirit of Joe Biden.
Yeah, it's like and this then circles back to my point earlier that they haven't passed anything fundamental. Like you could go ask, like Marjorie Taylor Greene is like she did something with Code Pink today or something.
Yeah, she went to go protest Ukraine.
Like she's like, it's not the 51st state. It's like, yeah, we're aware of that. They don't have the ability to vote. Like, they're just getting like neither like on a fundamental level. And this would be objectively very funny for somebody to make an argument too with them. It's also not the 51st state, Israel.
Yeah, for sure.
And like,
that's different. Well, that's
different question. Like, when did? Like I sometimes I talk to like Republican friends or like family members of mine or something like that. Like I'm confused why you guys are not in favor of Ukraine. Like it confuses me every time. It's like you guys were the same party. You guys were the same people. No, like legit. You guys were like obsessed with like foreign policy, hawkish. Like let's go fucking invade Iraq for 9/11. Somehow that makes sense in my head. But like, I want to hear it because it still confuses me a little bit.
There's three fundamental things. One, first and foremost, the Iraq war broke everyone's brains.
That's true. Yeah.
So everybody is coming off of Iraq and be like, well, we can't do shit right. So fuck it. Let's not do anything.
Sure.
The other one is that Putin has been targeting with propaganda, right wingers specifically, to say that he is a buttress against degenerates for the West because the West has fallen. So that's the other one. That's why you have people that are pro Putin whenever he does anything that's anti-gay, anti-trans, etc. Right?
But then also he's like denazifying Ukraine, so he's got like left. So it's like,
but
what is he doing?
They don't like Nazis. They don't like Nazis.
No, for sure. I'm just saying like he gets both the left and the right because like the left conspiracy theorists are also like, oh well.
I mean,
got to take out Azov or whatever.
all of alt media. So
sure.
We should be real here. And then what was it? So I said the Iraq War broke everybody's brains. It's Fortress Americana. So there's a lot of Republicans that are now very much saying, hey, fuck the rest of the world. Let's do what we are doing. We're going to be populist. We're going to have strong military, but we're not going to get involved anywhere. And that's the other.
Which feels like counter, like, I don't know if I get that perspective at all, but
it's a very simplistic way of thinking about how the world works.
Sure.
Their problems. It doesn't affect us. We're an ocean away, but yeah.
Right.
There's a fourth one too, and it's tied to the first impeachment. It's like they think that they're money laundering this to the Biden. That's like if that hadn't happened, I imagine there would be like a little bit less resistance to it from like the craziest aspects.
It's probably some truth to that.
Because especially now that there's like some argument that like the Clinton Foundation is involved with like possibly rebuilding it or something. Like
careful, guys. I feel like we're getting so close to summoning Rob Noor. If you say Burisma 3 times in a mirror, he's gonna show up. I see like, okay, Fresh, look over your right shoulder. Do you see those two two dots? No, that's Rob. He's been sitting there ever since we mentioned Ukraine. He has manifested. He's been sitting there. This is what the radical left does. Oh, that's my Rob. Anyway, love the guy. But yeah. So my question, going back to Kevin McCarthy, well, just the role of the speaker at this point. Do you think we talked about how Kevin McCarthy played his hand, how well or not well he played it? What do you think of the Democrats? Do you think they played their hand well, or do you think they should have done things differently? What do you think? Let's start with Hunter.
That's me, by the way. I don't get any criticisms of the Dems. Like I feel like, I don't know, if McCarthy approached them with anything, if he didn't publicly say we will give you no concessions, let them self-immolate. Like I don't have any criticisms of how the Democrats handled this.
Fresh, what do you think?
One criticism is just in the beginning of the first set of speakers, like 7 or 8 votes in, when he started to go back to them, I would have stepped in and been like, hey, maybe we can cut them out now. Like this is like, we've had our fun. Like, do you want this, or do you want to be like impotent? I think like had they gone and approached it,
you're saying originally,
originally.
Okay.
Sure. I think that would, and then made the same deal that he should have made. Other than that, they did fine. Like they've clown showed everything. I mean, obviously the debt ceiling thing wasn't great, but like they clowned him on the impeachment thing. They did a really good job of standing together. I think now, if I'm them, I'm starting to talk to some of the frontline guys, and I'm being very serious about this. About like, look, you're not going to win your election anyway. Do you want to be remembered as the people who had the most dysfunctional and possibly destructive Congress in history when they shut this shit down, or when they attempt to blow up the next debt ceiling? Or do you want to be like, hey, maybe we want to actually pass legislation and put Hakeem Jeffries in power? Like straight up, it's like, how much do you actually care about the ability to govern, because they cannot govern, and it's about time that like you just admit it, just swap parties.
Well, what's funny is
I think I would absolutely make that. I would make that.
That hypothetical only works with Steve Scalise. Jim Jordan's not an option for that. He's also one of the deranged MAGA Republicans.
No, I'm only talking. Yeah. I'm not talking about any of the MAGA Republicans. I'm talking about
no, but of the two who are running, the front runners. I'm sorry. When you say the front runners, are you talking about the two, like Steve Scalise?
No.
Are you talking about the 18 in Biden?
I'm talking about the 18 in the Biden district.
I see. Yeah. Gotcha. All right.
Because they fucked them. Like they threw them under the bus already.
Right. So, Cypher, what about you? Do you have any objections, things that the Democrats should have done or should not have done?
The thing they probably could have done maybe a little bit better is messaging more than anything. I think a lot of people just
Democrats should message better. Really?
Yeah, right. Go figure, right? But there was a couple of times where you saw like AOC on the floor trying to talk to Gosar about stuff and things like that, and then maybe do that a little bit more, making a little more hay of it. It was kind of funny when
should absolutely be brought up on. That was a fucking lunatic.
What'd you say? Who is a lunatic?
Gosar.
Yeah. No, but AOC was talking to Gosar about like something. She was going around trying to make deals. But maybe talked out a little bit more. It was kind of funny when they were doing the popcorn thing, so that was good messaging on that. But yeah, they need to speak about their successes more. Infrastructure deal, CHIPS Acts, everything. They just need to be pounding it every minute of every day.
I'm sorry, I should clarify. I was referring simply to how the Dems handled the speaker situation.
Yeah, I think this goes into the speaker situation just a little bit. Same thing messaging. So they should be saying that so they can get some of the things that.
What should they be messaging first and foremost? Do you think?
With the
you want a functioning government, yes or no?
Yeah,
regardless of whether you think it's good or bad. Like either regardless of whether you think we're doing things that help people. Do you want a government or not?
Yeah, that should be on the top of the things, and as well as about the ramifications of what a government shutdown looks like, the ramifications of what the debt ceiling looks, failing to pass the debt ceiling looks like, who is responsible for this first and foremost,
right?
All that stuff.
And like they lowered the credit, and they were like directly because of Republican instability.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm very pleased. I may end up, because I'm a cynic by nature, I may end up finding something later on down the line that I don't like about what they did or what they didn't do. But for the most part, I have no complaints because it's in the Democrats' nature to fold. They're the ones who usually, blink and swerve in the game of chicken.
Right.
And I'm glad that they found the wherewithal to do it. I'm glad that President Biden did as well, just from the White House. So reports say that he didn't pressure House Democrats either way. He didn't say save McCarthy or screw McCarthy. He told Jeffries, just do what you think is best. And Jeffries and his conference made the decision. And I think it says something because even still, the House Democratic Conference is still a big tent party full of very disparate members. I mean, people, there are conversations now about how Democrats are the more coherent party and the more disciplined party. And they are now, relatively speaking, but that's been through trial and error and hard work. It's still generally, historically speaking, Republicans have a much easier time of falling in line. So the fact that Jeffries was able to meet with his conference. He said, put your phones away, put them in Ziploc bags or whatever. We're gonna discuss this in private.
Don't pull any fire alarms.
Yeah, exactly, Bowman. He made sure that the room was not commensurate with the fire code. There was no fire alarm to pull. The fact that there was unanimity there, that between the lies and the bad faith and the last second attempt to throw them under the bus, that they were all like, no, we're going to allow Gates to take his shot. And then if push comes to shove, we will reinforce him. And sure, we don't know what may come next. And sure, we do have a continuing resolution in like 42 or 43 days, which is going to expire, in 42 or 43 days. But eventually, game theory requires that the other participant finally draw a line in the sand. And no matter what happens, this does send a signal to the next Republican speaker that barring a miracle, you somehow corralling this entire herd of cats that you have in your conference, if you deal with the Democrats, you better not try to fuck them, because the next time that Matt Gaetz is displeased and comes for your seat, they'll kick you out. So I like that. I like that backbone, the don't fuck with us backbone. Democrats need to exude that much more often. I'm glad they stood their ground here.
I agree.
Yeah. So I do know there's some others who disagree. Like I said, I've been not for like the past like 30 or 40 minutes, however, but like Pisco and I were going back and forth with Sitch and Adam of Sitch on Twitter. It's a fun spar. It was civil, but they took a different approach. I know that
a wrong one.
Yeah, their argument is the next guy's going to be worse, but the worst guy's not going to be elected. Like that's the thing. Like they're not going to get like a Jim. Like I don't understand how they think Jim Jordan's going to win. Like Jim Jordan, what does Jim Jordan have to offer? Like they need, like it's the same reason that like an AOC won't ever be Speaker of the House, or like a Jamie Raskin. Well, maybe he might, but like won't be like, you need certain people to be like attack dogs whose job it is to go on these committees and to make people look fucking dumb. And that's what Jim Jordan is for them. He's their attack dog.
Sure.
It doesn't work with Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's objectively a stupid person. But like, that's what Jim Jordan can't do that. Like, he can't do the impeachment and maybe he could. I don't know how that works. But like, that's not his job. Like, you need somebody it's a different skill set. And also, like, there's no fundamental, like, they're all smart enough to know that like they cannot allow this one vote thing to remain. Like, it cannot be.
Right. That's why I'm not too worried about the hypothetical that the next person, because there's certainly worse Republicans than Kevin McCarthy, but the very thing that got McCarthy removed would still be in effect under that person. You know what I mean? So it seems really unlikely that the stars would align such that a worse person than McCarthy would be successfully elected in the first place, number one. And number two, that he or she would be able to keep the conference in line to not have a legitimate threat posed to them by their job. I don't see how they wouldn't be basically in the same position.
They have to
I think there's this perspective that McCarthy is a moderate Republican, mostly just because he's been next to, you know, the craziest psychos in the House of House of Representatives instead of House of Republicans. The House of Representatives, like, it just and also, like, he wanted to keep the government afloat, but like a moderate, he is not. Like, he's
like Dan Crenshaw is like the only moderate. Like, Nancy Mace isn't a moderate. She's a lunatic.
No, yeah, Nancy Mace is no. There are AOC said it to Jake Tapper a couple of days ago. There are no, and I've been saying this on my channel too, there are no moderates in the Republican Party. There's just, she said, the way she phrases, there are people who have a lot of fealty to Donald Trump and then almost absolute fealty to Donald Trump, and that's it. And it's true. Like, even the 18 vulnerable Republicans in Biden districts, I don't know to what extent we could reasonably call them moderate, because you would think that if they were genuinely moderate in today's context, they would have thrown their weight around, because 18, even half of them, you know, making their own coalition as, hey guys, we're vulnerable in swing districts. You can't get into this pissing contest with the White House.
Democrats, like fundamentally throwing their weight around in like that stopped, definitely cut a lot of stuff out of the things that they passed is like the Josh Gottheimers and these other
Gottheimer. I was thinking of him earlier.
Henry Cuellar, who like definitely like even in the Senate they were literally just like the vulnerable ones who just blocked everything. I mean, it's a little easier in the Senate, but like
sure. But yeah, look at Manchin. He's the poster boy for that, you know.
But they like the part of the Build Back Better was the fight over salt, which was like just a Gottheimer thing.
Right. No, 100%. So, yeah, I don't have a crystal ball here. That's why I try not to make predictions, because, you know, I also thought that there would be, I'm a cynic. So again, I thought that there would be a red wave, and I was pleasantly surprised when IRI was correct and there wasn't. So I try not to make predictions, but at this point, I just think the Democrats have to assume the risk and play hardball strategically from time to time to make the case that, you know, if you mess with them, you'll get politically, I'm using a metaphor here, politically, a bloody nose. They'll hit back. Let's take some questions or comments here. So how does that work if the speaker is not a member of Congress? They would just appoint, or they would just name a nominee and vote for them. You can do that.
As long as you get the majority, you're speaking.
Would they have access to confidential documents? Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Anything that the speaker has access to. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. They can't have Donald Trump because he's going to steal more of them.
That's right. The only reason they wouldn't have classified documents is because Trump took them already. Mar-a-Lago ran out of toilet paper. Okay.
Which didn't they try? Didn't Gates do something with that for one of the impeachment? Didn't they like bust into a skiff with like phones and like pizza to try to fuck something up? Was that Gates?
I can't remember. I know that they intervened, that they supposedly crashed a private meeting during one of the impeachments, but they'd actually been invited to it in the first place. So it was like an empty virtue signal. Let's see here. The Republicans are not a serious party. The pro temp speaker's first issue was kicking Nancy Pelosi out of her office while she was at Feinstein's funeral. Like, seriously? Has anybody heard of this? I have, but has anybody heard about this?
I didn't hear about this.
They also kicked Jeffries out too?
No, Steny Hoyer.
Steny Hoyer, right.
Yeah.
So there's the other thing is, it's not clear he has the power to do this either. Because we don't normally have a temper. I think this is maybe one of the only times we've ever had one. It's not entirely clear what exactly powers he has. It certainly doesn't seem like this is a power he has. Like, basically the argument for what his powers are is you're basically there to sit in the chair until they get another speaker. Like, you don't have, you're not the speaker. You're just like the body warming the chair. Like, you don't have any power.
So McHenry ousted Pelosi. What did he do?
It wasn't from their full office. We'll address this question in a minute. It wasn't from their full office, but apparently certain tenured leaders or former leaders get like these special like reading rooms or whatever in the basement of Congress. Is like this long-standing tradition. And the first thing that McHenry did was kick Pelosi out of hers, even though she was in California attending Dianne Feinstein's funeral.
Yeah, and then he's like, yeah, you have till tonight to do it. She's like, I'm at a fucking funeral. So, like, Jeffrey's staff had to get rid of those stuff.
Right. And then he did it to her. I don't know where he is in the leadership now. I don't know if he's still in leadership, but Steny Hoyer, McHenry did it to him as well. He was a major Democratic leader. If we have nothing more to say on that, this is the big question. We'll start with Cypher. So this might be fortune telling, which I don't do, but do you think if Trump doesn't win in 2024, the Republicans oust the MAGA wing in Congress and reset? Go ahead, Cypher.
That's a good question.
I don't think so. I think right now we do have a basically Trump effect where whatever he says pretty much goes within the Republican Party for the most part. And once he is no longer a factor, that goes away and it starts to subside. But I don't think that the MAGA wing of the Republican Party is going away. And I don't think that they are going to have any sort of actual soul searching whatsoever. Because if past his prologue, we've already had this happen 3 times now. 2012, right? In 2006, and now 2018, when they all lost the elections, they all came up with the same thing of saying, hey, we got to reach out to Latinos more, we got to reach out to Black people more, we have to curb our appeals to white nationalists, we can't be an old person party anymore. And what do they do every time? Double down, because for the last 50 years now, the GOP base has been inundated with propaganda from the likes of Newt Gingrich and who was the guy that smoked himself to death? Rush Limbaugh, Andrew Breitbart, etc. And it's just getting worse with Newsmax, Epoch Times, etc. This is not going away. This is the new Republican Party.
Stacks, do you have anything to say on this?
I'm not convinced that this is the new Republican Party. I'm convinced that there is a fracture in the Republican Party, and that the kind of the mainstream Republicans, I guess we could call it, Christie's. I guess Romney's retiring though. Like, it's really hard to say, but my fortune telling. Really not sure if this is going to be accurate, but I'm wondering if they might pivot into maybe ranked choice voting, understanding that maybe we're just not going to get along, but we kind of need each other. So maybe we don't need each other. Maybe this actually is completely untenable. They actually fracture into 2 separate parties, and they get rid of first past the post, they get rid of ranked choice voting, and they really start pushing for those policies so that they can fracture and create kind of a bit of a populist party that's neither left nor right, but definitely right. That hits also the Russell Brand figures to sort of just engage in sort of the conspiracy brained bits that are really popular right now. That's my assumption. I have no idea if that would work. I have no idea if they're going to do that. I also think what they might choose to do is realize that they're hemorrhaging voters at this point. Maybe try being a little bit less racist and actually start appealing to minorities who are overwhelmingly religious and support a lot of the morals that they stand for, that Republicans stand for, and maybe try to hit that base really hard. That could be very possible, but right now on the current track, this seems untenable. This seems like the Republican Party is just going to fracture, get complete, if the Republicans don't change course right now, what I'm suspecting is something when FDR gets elected, where it's just almost the entire country getting blue, just this massive blue wave. But I think that most Republicans know this. I think most Republicans see this, and they're going to fight like hell to make sure that doesn't happen. So I could see a lot of different pathways they might think.
I'm sorry. You said just the phrasing when you the whole country got blue. I don't know. It just I'm very infantile. Sorry.
I don't know what
I thought that was a fellatio joke.
Like blue balls. Is that the...
No. It's just I don't know why it tickled me. Okay, so fresh. What do you think about that question? Not the getting blue part, but
I think it also depends on like the problem with this election is we've never had an election where the front runner is going to jail. So like, I think it also depends on like how badly he loses. Like if it's kind of close, like it was in 2020, I think he's still they'll find some. They'll fight. He'll fight from jail. He'll send his edicts out from whatever prison he's in, and they'll still have some type of power. They'll find some new figurehead.
And another January 6th, low-key.
Yeah, no. Like the answer is not self-reflection. They're not going to
right.
It's going to be more violent. Is going to be what's happening. Like ultimately, because they're testing this. Like they're currently in the middle of testing this. So there's a couple things. They're attempting to gerrymander and say fuck the courts. They're doing it in a couple different states. So in order to entrench their power, the Ohio maps that they try to redraw are fucking insane. They have like a slight majority now, and they're trying to do to like a 3-1 in the House and like a 2-1 in the Senate. It's like insane what they're attempting to do there. But like they're not going to moderate it. Now, as for getting rid of them, it's not going to be possible. Like there's some of them that are so entrenched until they choose to give up that power, they're going to always win. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be in Congress for as long as Marjorie Taylor Greene chooses to be. Like she's not going to get voted out. Like it's not going to happen. Like you'll probably beat Lauren Boebert. Matt Gaetz will leave. Maybe you'll beat like like Paul Gosar. But like there's still gonna be crazy people who pop up to take their place.
Yeah, so I was gonna say a couple of things there. No, it's possible, but I think it's incredibly unlikely that the GOP will recalibrate. They're not really an introspective party at this point. The book that I read recently called Tyranny of the Minority by Ziblatt and Levitsky, two Harvard professors, they make the case that not only obviously is the United States struggling as far as being a functioning democratic republic is concerned because it has a disproportionate number of mechanisms which allow minoritarian rule. They make the case that political parties move away, that they are Democrats, loyal Democrats, small d Democrats, when they accept the results of free and fair elections, when they believe that they stand a competitive chance to win free and fair elections. That's a crucial one, right? If they feel like they're fucked, then they're much more likely to, appeal to rigging the game. And then number three, that they distance themselves from those who want to, choose violence or question the results of free and fair elections. So semi-loyal Democrats as well. Right now, we exist in a system that does not incentivize the Republican Party to moderate. Okay. So we're talking about hemorrhaging voters. Like it occurred to me, even in 2022, even though there wasn't a red wave, they did reclaim the House. And actually, for once in a long time, they won the popular vote. There were more Say what?
There is a caveat to that. If you remove the elections where they ran unopposed, I don't think they won.
Well, there's also an even bigger caveat to that as well. If maximum eligible voters were maximized, they probably wouldn't win even in that situation too. So it's bigger still. But the point is that even in today's climate, there are contexts in which the Republican Party can stay competitive in a popular election. So what's funny is they're convinced they can't. Donald Trump, Lindsey Graham, Republican attorneys in front of the U.S. Supreme Court have openly said that they don't think they can win if eligible voter turnout is maximized. But that's also because they're not incentivized to reach across the aisle to, campaign, as Fresh would point out, on like a robust policy agenda, because all they do is just whatever Trump wants. So no, I don't think that we'll see introspection there. I think if they lose again, it's like, okay, 17th time's the charm, right? What ultimately has to be done is the rules of the game have to be changed. It's going to be very, very difficult. None of it's going to be sweeping, but we have to take every shot that we possibly can in order to force the Republicans to say, listen, it's not like we're trying to outlaw you, but we're trying to put you in a position where you can't fight this game of politics and electoralism on uneven terrain. You can't have all the advantages artificially made, and we have to fight blindfolded with one hand tied behind our back. That's the only way that the Republicans will engage in introspection, is if they feel that they have to in order to appeal to more voters, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. So let's see here. Go ahead.
Yeah, just one thing I just wanted to say. Stacks, I don't think you and I disagree too much on this. I just think that the side that's going to win is going to be the crazies. And I think that we're going to do that via the Russell Brand and other people like that side.
Sure. I'm not going to fight that. Like, that's fair. I have a little bit more hope in the Republican Party than I should. And when I say hope, I really just mean like not psychotic, just really deranged, just really bad. You know, I miss when Republicans were just bad. They weren't also psychos.
Like, this is an interesting point that I've made a couple times now, and I'm gonna keep making it. They're always the Republicans always the worst. They're always the end of democracy. And like, when do we stop like making this argument? And the answer is when they stop doing that. So like, and the comparison I've made is like, if Nikki Haley was the front runner, we wouldn't be out here saying she's doing fascism, like in the same way that like Trump or DeSantis or Vivek would do. We would say she's bad because she wants to extend Social Security, the ability for people to get it. She's like anti-union or whatever the other policy point that you disagree with is.
Right. Nikki Haley's not a threat to democracy.
Right. Nikki Haley isn't a threat to democracy. Like, I think if at some point in this election they do the only sensible thing, which is if they actually want a chance to remove Trump, they have to all rally around her. And like, she actually gets close, like she closes that gap to like a level where maybe if they'd done it earlier, she would have won. That might be a good sign. I don't see that happening because I cannot imagine DeSantis doing that, and God knows what Vivek's goal at this point is.
Yeah.
But that's like the thing. Like, they have to figure out how.
Well, they need to choose a front runner.
Right. Like who's somebody like saying like maybe if they start rallying around like a Larry Hogan or.
Yeah, the problem is it's not up to the Republican Party. The problem is it's up to the Republican populace, and they are very, very, very firmly, like, say what you will about the Republican Party, they're very democratic when it comes to listening to their populace and choosing the front runners. I just don't think they're popular. They're not as popular, and maybe Cypher's got a point. Like, it's the populace. It's Trump, it's DeSantis, and Vivek. I think those are the top three by a mile. I could be wrong.
That's not that much. I think Haley caught up to Ron at this point.
Oh, really? Okay, fair enough.
Because Vivek
DeSantis has been tanking recently. Yeah, I haven't checked recent polls.
Yeah, I think DeSantis. I think he's in like 5th in New Hampshire.
Oh, really? Well, this doesn't matter. Trump is ahead
by a mile. No, I
It's
understand.
by a mile, like 50 points. No, fair enough on DeSantis and Vivek, but like Trump is ahead by a mile. It's like 50.
Right. That's why like he's ahead by enough that like even if they coalesced around Nikki Haley, he's still up like 20 fucking points.
Yeah, but it's like the populace just won't listen. They don't care.
But like that's
Trump.
Fucking most frustrating because it's all fake. Like,
what do you mean by that?
Like, their populism is all fake.
I don't. What do you mean?
They're not like Trump ran as a populist. They had no populist positions. Like, Josh Hawley went and stood on a picket line. Like, Josh Hawley doesn't give a fuck about unions. Like, they don't. It's all.
But their right-wing populism is different than left-wing populism. We have to acknowledge that there is this difference and that they're populists in their own way. Right-wingers tend to be populist more in cultural positions and creating some sort of hierarchy that puts people into a defined box, and they try to overcome class struggle with solidarity through nationalism or some other bullshit. Whereas leftist populism is more geared towards class warfare and taking on the rich and that sort of thing. There's There's certain populist things.
What I'll say is like it almost seems like you're defining populism by like it's clearly not true populist. Like they just seem to be going with what the masses are saying, and it's like, well, that's kind of what that is, right? Like I don't know. It's of course loose and without really clear goals or policies and really just based off of vibes, off of what their populace is screaming for, and it's a way to just piss them off in the most obnoxious way possible. But that's kind of the whole problem with populism, right? Like I don't know. So we might just be saying the same thing.
Well,
so we make fun of the forced to vote people now.
Yes, please, and you're going to have to explain the context.
I will make fun of the forced to vote people because they
You're making fun of. I'm sorry, what?
Force the vote
people.
Oh, please do. Sorry.
So
I've been fighting with recently.
Go ahead and provide the context. Go ahead and provide it.
There was this argument in 2020 that progressives should withhold their vote from Nancy Pelosi for speaker in order to bring Medicare for all to the floor. I think that was the main thing that they were arguing. That was like they said so that way we know who stands for Medicare for all and who doesn't. Keep in mind, this is objectively a stupid idea because we literally just had an election where the candidates were fighting primarily over Medicare for all as like the main policy point of what we would do with healthcare. So we knew exactly who stood where because they all said it. The reasons against this were like, maybe McCarthy becomes speaker, a whole lot of other things, which I think, given the moment, is a possibility that there would be one or two Democrats who would have defected to like a Gottheimer or a Henry Cuellar, who like fucked them over a little bit, just to prove a point. But basically, they've spent the last 2 years arguing that the progressives didn't fight hard enough. So then when McCarthy did his speaker thing and he got his 15 rounds, they're like, see, we were right. Look at all these things that the MAGA people got. And it's like, no, you're wrong because they look like a bunch of fucking idiots and they didn't do this. And then Breonna Joy Gray popped up. I think she was the only one that I saw. I may have blocked Jackson. He's just too stupid for me to do.
I don't think Jackson was behind it, but Jimmy Dore, Breonna Joy Gray.
Jimmy Dore blocked me. So I can't say anything he says. But like, they're all like, see, this is what we could have done. Like these forced to vote people thought were a bad idea, except they got things out of concessions anyway. I'm pretty sure they removed PAYGO directly because of these negotiations. So there's like things anyway. So like the whole argument is, oh yeah, if you'd fought hard enough, you could have gotten these concessions. But the obvious answer is the entire process that they wanted to happen makes your party look like fucking idiots because you're just you can't do basic shit. And the other thing, I think Ryan Knight had this tweet about it because I saved it. Is he's like, yeah, I agree. We had a once in a lifetime opportunity for Medicare to lose 100 to 300 votes. How could we have possibly passed that up? Like that's what would have happened, and it would have killed any momentum for our Medicare for all policy, like for another decade. Like these things, they have no. It's such a short-sighted, stupid argument. It like I have to say, the more that I listen to Breonna Joy Gray, the more it is like fundamentally like unbelievable that she was working for the Bernie campaign.
Yeah, seriously.
Like this is a person who doesn't seem to understand basic politics of what is currently happening and what is a good idea. Like every time I hear her, it just makes me mad that she has no idea what the fuck she's talking about. It's just she's wrong on like every level.
It's because she doesn't care. She's an accelerationist. That's what.
Okay, but like
that's what was obvious during the Kyle Kalinske and what's
Crystal Ball?
Yes, Crystal Ball are what said.
Is your name really Crystal Ball?
Yeah, it's Crystal with a K, Ball.
Yeah. And I knew a woman named Crystal Clear, so spelled a similar way. But yeah,
so Stacks, is there anything you want to weigh in on in terms of force the vote? And
I mean, just like this is the biggest evidence that like force the vote would obviously never work. Like it's just the Republican Party looks like such fucking idiots right now, and they transmitted that to their entire base right now, that they have no idea how to govern, that they're not interested in doing it. They're going to be sticks in the mud while people's lives are on the line. And it's just like, how do you see this as a win for Republicans? It's almost like infuriating. Just like, what are we talking about right now? I don't have much else to say other than that. Like, it's so silly at its face that I don't even know how to interact with it.
Yeah. So what's funny is like it's interesting. I didn't follow, even though no, I've always been a politics geek and even got a degree in it. I never followed at the time the forced to the vote thing because it was more about that was more relegated to online discourse than in the mainstream. And catching up on the history and becoming more familiar with Brianna Joy Gray, just given as bad as that was to me, the biggest issue until recently was that she still hadn't recanted from the view that the 2016 election after Bernie lost the primary was inconsequential, even when you considered the nomination of Supreme Court justices. It's, I think her podcast name, Bad Faith Podcast, is aptly titled because it's the embodiment of bad faith. Well, the embodiment of bad faith is the Republican Party, of course, which is infinitely worse than Brianna Joy Gray. But among the left, if there is such a thing as bad faith, which of course there is, but just to a vastly smaller degree, because of course the Republican Party is infinitely worse in all ways. The Brianna Joy Gray not recanting from her views on the Supreme Court after what Gorsuch has done, Amy Coney Barrett has done, Brett Kavanaugh has done, giving that 6-3 conservative supermajority. Like Cypher said, if there was any doubt whatsoever that she had absolutely no regard for the country, that was the great example. There are people who you could easily make the argument are now dead because of certain decisions made by the Supreme Court in a roundabout way. It's the same argument, when she makes the case that there is no difference fundamentally between Donald Trump and Joe Biden at the end of 2024. There will be people who are alive at the end of 2024 or as a result from the outcome of 2024 if Joe Biden wins the presidency as opposed to Donald Trump. So there actually are material things to consider. The force the vote thing, I'd forgotten all about that until, this thing popped up and I think she and Sam Cedar were going back and forth on it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to want to wrap up here in about 10 minutes because I think we've definitely, I really only wanted to hit the Speaker McCarthy thing and the periphery surrounding it. So based on everything that we talked about, so we got about 10 minutes left. Is there anything else with respect to this situation that anyone wants to point out or ask or, discuss in the last 10 minutes regarding Congress, the speakership, MAGA in the speakership, Trump in the speakership, Kevin McCarthy, something like that's germane to this particular topic?
I'm curious. Do you think it's almost definitely Scalise who's going to be speaker next?
Compared to versus him and Jordan? Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, what do you think the likelihood is? I'm just curious.
I would be, as deranged as MAGA is, I would be shocked if Jim Jordan pulls more votes than Steve Scalise.
Right. You think it's just going to be like a 95% chance it's Scalise next?
I'd be shocked.
Sure.
100% shocked.
That makes sense.
I would almost say that Jeffries has as much of a shot or more of a shot than Jordan does because he would certainly get every Democrat vote. And I think that there would be more moderates who would at least want to vote for Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader,
the minority leader,
over Jim Jordan. So if anyone else wants to answer.
I think it depends on Emmert. I think that Tom Emmert might actually be because he seems like a reasonable, Republican. I don't know enough.
Let me ask you this, Fresh. I'm sorry to clarify. If you think Tom Emmert would he win because of Republican support or mostly Democrat support? Do you think?
I think he has enough support among newer members because he's the Trump people are rallying against him mostly because he voted for the 2020 election. But his reasoning was basically hey, we can't say this fucking thing was rigged if we have all these people who are on the same fucking ballot. We can't say that they exist, but Trump didn't. So I think he might be a little more moderate. And again, if it's Scalise leading up to this, we're gonna see a lot of the David Duke stuff. And I don't know how tied to the David Duke stuff they want to be for this guy.
Scalise was tied to Duke. I don't remember that.
when he ran, he said, "I'm David Duke without the baggage," and apparently David Duke was like, I mean, I think this might have been like 20 years ago, but like it's very hard to. And I think David Duke was also like part of like advising him on things.
Really? Gotcha.
What about you, Cypher? What do you think?
What was the direct question again? Sorry.
The direct question was about Scalise versus Jim Jordan. Which one? Yeah.
That one's actually hard to say. I want to say it's Scalise just because he has more support among moderate Republicans than Jim Jordan does, but they are both within the Republican Party powerhouses. So I think it's a little bit of a coin toss, to be honest.
Also, isn't he sick? Isn't Scalise sick?
He has blood cancer.
Yeah, he's sick, which is another reason why it's more of a coin toss than.
Yeah, because they're definitely going to say some crazy shit about.
It was back in 1991 is when he said it.
Okay. I mean,
yeah,
still...
and Scalise also was the one that got shot, and that gives him power too, which is why also he has so much support among the Republicans, because he didn't go anti-gun and doubled down on being a douchebag.
This is real quick. This is a good question or good comment from Quibbles over coffee. Just got here, but I'm genuinely so upset that Dems let Gates speak from our side of the house after Republicans wouldn't let him use their mics, which is true. Can you imagine if we didn't? I actually think the funnier thing is that, the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of free speech, and yet here they are actively blocking the microphones in the people's house. And would not allow an elected representative to use the damn mic. Now, if that's not censorship, I don't know what is. And of all the things the Democrats could just hit Republicans on, like, because there's so many, I do hope like Jared Moskowitz or somebody like a Democratic congressman with like a really good sense of wit and sense of humor, maybe AOC, somebody like that, who would actually use this to their advantage, be like, interesting move from the free speech party. Not the people.
I mean,
it's free. It's free speech when I'm talking, and it's based and red pilled when it's my enemies. So keep that in mind next time.
It's funny optics. Who can
go ahead. Sorry.
They think he's a look. Let's be clear. There's going to be like 3 votes right when they get back. Once they figure out who the speaker is, it's whatever they trying to pass for these bills, and then it's going to be to throw his ass out. Like, I think that's going to fundamentally be one of the first things that happens is they're going to try to remove Matt Gaetz from Congress, which would be an exceptionally crazy thing to happen, that Matt Gaetz, maybe the first Congress member kicked out in a long time, when both George Santos and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar are existing current Congress people. And it would be objectively very funny that he was the one who got removed.
Yeah.
Quibbles, to answer your question, I think they actually did better politicking by letting him take the mic than having it be a little bit of a shouting match, because he got it over with.
Who did politicking? Republicans or Democrats did better politicking?
Democrats letting him speak, because they put it out in the open. If it was there wasn't going to be a shouting match. They would have just like taken the mic elsewhere or something.
Well,
like
they
just
also
got it over with quicker.
Plus, they did the right thing too, but they kept their distance. They didn't stand for him. They didn't do anything. They just let, here you go, have the mic. This all comes down on you. So. Let's see here. The only thing I guess I'll point out in conclusion on my end before we wrap up here is one thing I do find hilarious is both McCarthy and Gaetz are Trump loyalists to one extent or another. Gaetz I think both for cynical reasons too. McCarthy obviously had some deviation or more deviation than Gaetz, right? He publicly condemned Trump after January 6th, but then slunk back to Mar-a-Lago within 2 weeks. And that's also, by the way, another reason why I think that McCarthy was hoisted by his own petard, because he had every chance 2 years ago. If he and McConnell and others had seized the opportunity, they could have made a genuinely respectable attempt, even if they weren't successful, to reorient the party away from Donald Trump. And they didn't, because they're cowards at heart. So that's another reason I have so much schadenfreude here, because McCarthy sacrificed principle for power, returned the party to Trump, and then when push came to shove, Trump didn't answer his call. Trump completely ghosted him. And really the same thing for Gaetz too. Now Gaetz has hinted that he and Trump had some really good conversations right before he cast the vote, but when asked about it, Trump basically said, I don't know anything about it. It's too soon to tell. I like both of them. McCarthy said some really nice things about me. So I just think it's hilarious that these two men have debased themselves to be loyal to a malignant narcissist who, at the very end, when push comes to shove, has absolutely no regard for them whatsoever. It's so funny to me.
It's just purely self-interest.
Yeah. It reminds me, and Stash, you'll appreciate this because you're a Star Wars fan. It reminds me of Revenge of the Sith at the very end when, Palpatine sends Vader to, slaughter the separatist leaders. Yeah. Right. Yeah. They were like, we did everything you wanted. And
yeah, he's like, yeah, exactly.
Not my problem. It's just, he's like a dumber Emperor Palpatine. And I hate to say that because I think Palpatine's just one of the great villains. But Trump is the closest thing we've got, sadly. So,
no, McConnell is closer to that than Trump is because.
When I saw Rise of Skywalker and I saw Palpatine there, I'm like, oh, it's just Mitch. Just my boy. I merged smoke.
But I actually do want to mention something very quickly. When we were talking about the how goofy this party made, there's people on Fox News going, hey, look, this is very clearly showing Americans that Republicans don't know how to govern. This is a problem. You lost Fox. I mean, Jessica Tarlow makes them look crazy because they're just objectively stupid people. But
Kilmeade, was pointing it out. Ducey was pointing out.
Ducey.
Janine Pirro. Yeah.
Ducey was pointing it out?
Yeah, today they were.
Steve Ducey, not Peter Ducey. Peter Ducey is still on the White House beat, literally asking about Joe Biden's dog. All the shit going on. And the only thing that Peter Ducey can think of, can I get a gotcha about who?
Well, the dog is possessed. They said they think it's like talking to somebody or something. Wasn't that the report?
I have no idea. Wait, what? Yeah.
I thought I saw something other staffers were talking about that. The dog just walks around the halls and it's making weird clicking noises and shit. It's talking to somebody.
Interesting. Can't wait for the conspiracy theory there. Marjorie Taylor Greene's gonna be like, the dog was vaccinated. That's also my Lindsey Graham, by the way.
Oh, yes.
No, we have the perfect conspiracy here. The dog is actually a demon sent from hell to control the country because liberals are evil Satanists that drink the Q blood in order to do everything else. That is what's going on here, people. Wake up, sheeple.
Okay, exactly. So I have to ask this just because this happened today. So as somebody who works in hospitals, I didn't happen to see any zombies today. Did any of you happen to see zombies today?
I didn't check, but I do know that my arm twitched a little bit. I think the COVID vaccine activated for.
I actually heard it was like The Walking Dead on the Republican side of Congress. There were zombies, but they all starved to death because there was not a brain in sight.
Nice.
I'm here all because Republicans are dumb.
Explain it more.
Yeah,
Republicans are stupid. What are you?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That's right.
Nice, but what Fresh Fit is or Fresh Face, Fresh Fit. That's what's up.
That's gonna be his third iteration after he inevitably gets banned for shit talking on this one. It's gonna be Fresh Fit new ideas.
Twitter, I'm gonna come back as Fresh Fit.
There were a bunch of conspiracy theorists saying, the nationwide Amber Alert. They were like, "Oh, it's gonna activate our vaccines and turn us all into zombies, so watch out." Yeah, and it got surprisingly. Yeah, I don't know. It's never surprising at this point, but way more traction than it should have.
Yeah.
Well, I think because it was just so objectively stupid. It's been a while since they've done their doomerism for the vaccine.
Yeah, true. Because it's obviously we're all fine. No one's really dropping dead. You have to. What they did for a little while, for a good few months or something, they were just finding any news article of anyone just dropping dead or just having a heart attack at 20 or something like that. And they're like, so ridiculous. It's the vaccine! It's the vaccine!
But that's the funniest thing is the die suddenly people who were they made the documentary. First off, there's people in that documentary who didn't have COVID issues. Second, the guy who the basketball player fell down, he got drafted this year. He's on the Jazz currently. He's not dead. So... He just had something else. Or Bronny James getting sick. They're oh yeah, it's a vaccine. You know what? Honestly, I haven't seen it in a while, and I think this is probably might pop up again. Is Darlin Ham is back playing football.
So I'll be honest with you. I don't watch football.
He was the guy who had.
That was the guy who collapsed, right?
Yeah, he was the one who got collapsed. So they thought, and then he was in the stands for their playoff games, and they're like, "Oh, it's a body double." It's like I didn't see anything about that. Maybe
it always is.
Maybe they're trying to track down all the Fetterman clones.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, we're about to wrap it up. Jerome, thanks for popping in at the end. Thanks for everybody who participated in the chat. So let's first start with Stacks. Give them your shout out. We're not going to do TikTok, damn it. We're only going to do the YouTube.
Hey, well, follow me on TikTok too, now that he mentioned it. But yeah, no, I'm Staxiums everywhere. I mostly do YouTube and TikTok. Twitter, I refuse to call it anything else. Those are my main three. So
it's X. And again, the messages are X gonna give it to you.
X gonna give it to you. Yeah.
Okay, whatever. All
anyway.
right, so Cypher, what about you, buddy?
Hey everybody, my name is Cypher. I do a news show every Thursday. So if you are interested in any of that, be sure to check it out. YouTube, Twitch, whatever. I also do Instagram and other places. So
that's Instagram modeling, though. It has nothing to do with politics. Can you tell them about what you're doing in Dallas as a reminder?
Yeah. So in Dallas on November 5th, I will be debating actual justice warrior, also known as Sean Fitzgerald, who is a chud when it comes to criminal justice reform and crime in general. This will be the first time, and to my knowledge, that he's debating anybody that has a direct criminal justice degree, such as myself, which he also has. And so it should be an interesting thing. We're going to debate, is the left soft on crime? And my answer is going to be no. And we're so hard on crime, we don't want it to exist by solving its root causes. So it's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, I'm hyped to watch it. I will say I thought, because I'm so confident in your abilities, I did think initially that you were going to be the toughest challenge that he was going to face of the day. But then I heard that he's going to be debating Destiny, and the topic is Trump versus Biden presidential record.
Wait, isn't he debating Ben?
He is debating Ben Shapiro at some point. Yeah. But yeah, the date to be determined. But yeah, actual justice warrior after debating Cypher is going to be debating Destiny on Trump versus Biden.
We're all going to have dinner together during the space between those two debates. So it should be
well, good luck. Tell him it's his last supper, because after that conversation, it's not going to go well. There is no cogent defense for Trump, and I'm actually surprised. I'm shocked. AJW accepted the premise. He usually just sticks with crime stuff. I can't imagine the burden of trying to defend Trump. Fresh, what about you, buddy? You don't stream anymore, but what's your shout out?
So I think I've been telling people this wrong for so long. It's my handle on Twitter is Fresher Ideas New. We're
gonna change that right now.
Yeah, I definitely been telling people this wrong all the time because I forgot what I put it on, and I don't interact enough with people that it matters. But yeah, I'm on Twitter. I show up on these. I'm going to be on Productive Conversations tomorrow, talking about this stuff, and then some other pop culture stuff. I don't know what it is. I'll be on that again later, talking about basketball. I do stuff on the left wing with Desmond. I'm going to do that Friday, so that'll come out sometime next week. I did a couple of other ones. One on who's to blame for poverty, the poverty spike, and who is to should Biden not run, something like that. That was whatever the title was. But yeah, usually you can find me on Fresher Ideas New. I'm here however often we do these weekly.
It's a good question. We're supposed to be doing it once a week. That may have to change.
But we always decide it on Tuesday night. We're like, okay, are we doing
Listen, we all have lives, and also, Stacks, I'm sure, has stuff to do. Maybe
I'll find something.
That's right. All right. Yeah. Well, fellas, everybody in chat, thank you for doing this. We may do this next week. It may be the week after. Again, we're going to have to revisit the schedule now that.
Well, we have to see when they come back, because I don't think they come back till next Wednesday, right?
Who?
Congress. I don't think Congress comes back till next Wednesday. So
there's but I mean, I'm sure there'll still be politics stuff to talk about. So,
but anyway. It's them. That's all it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because they can't do the Hunter Biden investigation without a speaker.
No. I'm sure
they have to get this done.
I'm sure James Comer will still want to be talking about it somewhere. It's like, please, can somebody let me on, please? I want to talk about Hunter Biden.
I got to pretend that there's something here until you ask me what the crime is, and then I run away.
That's right. All right, folks. Appreciate it. Peace. We'll see you either next week or the week after or sometime soon. Talk to you later.